Hey friends, in this video we are going to build a fully customizable CSS loading animation. We are going to create CSS loaders with glowing effect which can be further transformed to take different shapes. As you can see that on your screen, it's going to change its shape into this circular animation, and then you can also change it to make it look like a spiral animation by changing just few CSS variables. So isn't that cool? So, hey friends, welcome to Smash the Shell. I am Amit Kumar, and in this video tutorial we are going to explore CSS animations, CSS variables and HTML preprocessor to build this really awesome preloader animation. So let's go ahead and get started. Here I am on my CodePen account and I have created a new pen, and if you go to the settings you're gonna find HTML tab and you can select the Pug preprocessor and hit save and close. And if you want to follow along, you can go to this link codepen.io. Now the reason I am using Pug is really interesting. I wanted to generate a tons of element without having myself to write a lot of HTML code. So if you go to this website pugjs.org, you can see some examples here. Pug is actually a template engine which lets you write your HTML faster, and not only that, it lets you also organize your HTML code. So let's go to our HTML panel once again, and here I want to generate some divs with a class of bar for each of those divs. So let's go ahead and do that. Let total number of bars be 10, and let go ahead and create a for loop. So let I equal to 1, I is less than equal to bars, total bars, and then I plus plus. Since Pug is white space sensitive, we have to take care of where we are putting our spaces. So let's go ahead and give 2 spaces, and here let's give a bar class, and that is going to be applied on a div element. Div, so let's create a div, and then we have done that. If I go ahead and compile this, compile this, you're gonna see something like this, right? But what interesting is that now what I want is that I want to have a style attribute for each of these divs with a different value for a CSS variable that I'm going to create for each of these bars. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's create a style attribute, so I can write style, and then inside here I wanna start template string, and let's go ahead and create a style attribute, actually k variable, not style attribute. We have already created the style attributes. Let's create the k variable and let's give it a value. Now the value that I want here is going to be different for each of these bars, starting from smallest number to a largest number, right? So what I can do here is that I can simply go ahead and divide the total number of bars, actually I with total number of bars, and then since I want numbers to be up to 3 decimal places, so I can say 2 fixed and say 3, right? And now we have to wrap this everything inside a curly braces. And to interpolate this, I can use the dollar symbol. And let's go ahead and compile this. And as soon as I compile this, I'm gonna see something like this. Now each of these divs have a style attribute, a k variable, this is the CSS variable, and here we have different values for each of these k variables. And that was the reason I was using the Pug. And if you don't want to use the Pug, you can simply write this code. But what if I just go ahead and create 100 divs? let's see. So we have generated 100 divs with a few lines of pug code, and imagine you have to write this everything, right? So that would be more cumbersome. So that's why I'm using the pug. And my friends, let's go ahead and reduce this back to 10. We are going to increase it later on. Now let's go to the CSS, and I want to leave it compiled so that you can copy it if you want to. Let's go to the CSS. Here I want to use some other CSS variables also. So don't be scared of it. They are simple CSS variable. Let's create a width variable and give it a width of 5 ems, and let's also create a height variable and give it a height of 0.25 em. Yeah, nice. Okay, now let's go ahead and target the bar. But before that, let's go ahead and apply some styles to the body element. Let's say I want to give it a background color. So I can say HSL and 30, 10%, 5%. So you're gonna see a black color, right? Now let's give it a display property, grid, and let's say margin should be 0, and place items center so that we can center our preloader or bars inside this viewport vertically and horizontally. That's the reason I'm using this. You can copy the values if you want. Okay, now let me scroll it up. Let's go ahead and target the bar, and here I want to give it a width of the variable that we have created, that is width, and also let's go ahead and specify the height, which is equal to the height once again, and maybe hit save. And also let's go ahead and give it a background color so that we can see what's going on. This will be F. So you're gonna see that this is not vertically centered. Let's go ahead and fix this. Go to the body and set its min height to 100 VH. Okay, so you're gonna see that we have to center this. So I can go ahead and see what's wrong with this. Can you find this? To center this, we have to use kind of grid area. So what we can say here is that we can go ahead and write grid area, and let's say 1 column 1 row, and now they are overlapping on each other and kind of centered, and that's what I wanted. Now here comes the fun part. What I want to do here is that I want to apply some kind of border to this and also a box shadow. So we can do the both things by using the box shadow, but let's go ahead and do them separately. Let's say 2 pixels solid white. Let's go ahead and say border radius 25%, and also let's give it a background. Actually we have used the background color already, and let's give it a box shadow. Yeah, let's bring this to its online, and 0 pixels, 0 pixel, 4 pixel, and HSL 30, 100%, and 50%. I want to use say 220 instead of 30. All right, now let's go ahead and once again target 0, 0, 8 pixel, HSL 220, 100%, 50%. Now you're gonna see that I'm repeating this value once again. So let's go ahead and create a variable for this. Let's say color, and I can just cut this value from here and let's say var color and paste it right about here. And now let's go ahead and delete this and say var color, and I want to generate few other box shadows. So let's say 0 0 16 pixel var color, again 0 0 32 pixel var color. Alright, hit save. So we have got something like this. Now what I want is that I want to kind of rotate them in such a manner that they look like a circular fashion. So how can we do this? Let's go ahead and see. Let's create a transform property. So I will say transform, and I want to rotate this, right? So to give the rotation, what I want is that I want to multiply the k variable. So I can use calc and say k, and this is the same variable that we have created inside this HTML panel for the style attribute of these divs. So you're gonna see here a variable. Now these values are different and vary for each of these bars. So what I can say is that I can multiply this k with one turn or 360 degree, and it's gonna turn them in a circular fashion. So my friends, now let's go ahead and apply some spacing in between these bars, so to look them a kind of circular. So I can use another very useful property called translate. So I can say translate, and I want to translate it by, let's say, 5 ems. Yeah, that is nice point, right? And let's go ahead and make a variable for this 5ems, because we are going to use this several times for animating them. So let's go ahead and create another here. I can say spacing, and let's say 5ems, and here inside the translate I can say var spacing and hit save. Right, nothing changes, and we are good to go. Now my friends, let's go ahead and kind of create a keyframe animation so that we can animate these bars. So let's go ahead and write add keyframes and animate, and for the 0% I want to start from the initial values that we have. Go to the bars and simply go ahead and copy this transform and just simply paste it inside the 0%, and I want to set its scale value to 0 initially, and then let's go for the 80%, and for the 100% once again I want to copy this and paste it right here and set this to 1. And what I also want is that I want to rotate the hue, so I can go ahead and rotate its hue. So I can say filter hue rotate and set it to 0 initially, and I want to rotate it 3 turns. So let's copy and paste it here and say 3. Right, now we need to apply this animation. So what we can do is that we can go to this bar class, and right after this transform I can say animation, and we can put the name of our animation, which is animate, and let's specify a time. So for the time I'm going to go ahead and create once again a variable. So I can say here timing, and let's give it maybe 1.5 seconds initially, right? And here I can say where timing, so we are simply referring this from the root element, and now you're gonna see that it's already starting to animate. And what I want is that I want to give it animation iteration count value to infinite, and easing function should be linear, and it should look something like this, right? So this is really looking interesting right at this point. So we have to do some other work. So what we want to do here is that we want to rotate each of these bars individually with actually not rotate, scale individually with the time delay value. So we want to specify different time delay value for each of these bars. So we can do that by simply using the timing variable once again and multiply it with the k variable for each of these bars. So what I can say here is that right after this animation, I can say animation delay, and since we want to apply this different animation delay for each of these bars, we can use these variables because they have the different values. So what we need to do here is that we need to use the calc functions once again and say where, and bring the k variable and simply go ahead and multiply it by timing variable. And now let's see what we get. Yeah, we are kind of getting the result and we are good to go. But one thing I notice is that we can't see our U are being rotated because we need to say 3 turn here. Now let's go ahead and see what it looks like. Yeah, now we are getting different colors. Amazing. So now my friends, here you will see the benefits of using the CSS variable and the bug. Now let's go ahead and modify these values to see what different results we get. And this is really amazing, guys. Let's go ahead and do that. First of all, I'm gonna go ahead and view the uncompiled bug, and it's gonna show us this one. Now let's go ahead and modify this value to generate 24 elements and see what it looks like. Wow, look at this. Isn't that amazing? And what will happen when I go ahead and generate 100 of elements? And now this is really looking cool. So this is what I was talking about, my friends. And if I want to change the color, I can simply adjust the hue from here. Let's say 30. And now you're gonna see a very different result. Isn't that amazing, friends? So you can play with the timing function also. Let's go ahead and increase this timing to, let's say, some heavy number. Let's say 6 seconds, maybe. Look at this. Fantastic. Now you could also play with the different values from here. Let's go ahead and try doing something else. What if I just go ahead and relate these values? Let's go ahead and bring this back to 1.5 milliseconds, or actually seconds. And let's go ahead and adjust the width and height values. So if I go ahead and change this value to, let's say, 2 amps, and height should be also to 2 amps, and maybe if I go ahead and change the border radius to 100%, let's see what we are going to get. Yeah, we are getting a circular animation. Let's reduce the number of bars to 12. Look at this. By just changing few values, we have created a very different effect. So that's the real power of using the CSS variables, friends. So go ahead and play with these properties and values. You are going to get a different result every time you go ahead and modify these values. So I hope you guys like this video tutorial, and if you do like this, please go ahead and like this video and share your thoughts in the comment section and subscribe to the channel. Thank you. See you soon.